Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Find Your Model Health podcast, the official podcast for those looking to optimize their long-term health and weight goals and understand how their body really works. I am your host. I'm Shemaine Linney. I am nutritional therapist, integrative health practitioner, and certified iridologist. I'm very happy to have you all back with me for another piece of your day. I think you're very much going to enjoy this conversation. I know a few of you have been patiently waiting for this. Before I go on, I just want to remind you that the information in this episode is for informational purposes only and should not be taken strictly as medical advice. Please consult your health practitioner before making any lifestyle changes. So today I have the greatest pleasure of welcoming on Dr. Eldon Dahl. Dr. Eldon Dahl has a doctorate of natural medicine, and he is the founder and chief executive officer of Life Choice Limited. Eldon graduated as a naturopathic doctor in 1988. His pathway towards natural medicine was a result of witnessing family members struggle with cancer and recognizing that environmental toxins and nutrition correlated with the disease process. Eldon has more than 3 decades of experience in the naturopathic and natural healing industry. He spreads word on all health-related research into medical conditions, specifically anti-aging and chronic disease treatments. Eldon's philosophy is simple: educate and provide therapeutic medicines that work equally to allopathic drugs without the side effects. And his mission statement is healing the nation one person at a time, which really says it all. And I'm very happy to have you on. Welcome, Dr. Eldon Dahl.
Well, thank you. That was a great introduction. It's my pleasure to be on your program today.
Thank you.
You can see me with my Christmas sweater on, so I don't usually dress in Christmas outfits during the year.
Well, yeah, people will know now we're not recording this in July.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to talk to you, and I think your podcast will be well received because it's the information you provide is really, there's a great need.
Well, I'm very happy to have you on. And I reached out to your team because I was eager to have this discussion, partially because you're so local. So for those of you that don't know, Life Choice is based out of Cochrane in Alberta, so up the road from us in Calgary and Airdrie. So I did want to have someone local, but also someone with a lot of experience around hormones, and specifically we're going to look at the progesterone aspect of things and then some other hormones. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Me too.
So you have a lot of experience, and I had specifically reached out to your team to discuss your progesterone liposomal cream, which is what we're going to get into, because I wanted people to have another option, especially when they weren't getting any help from their physicians or their doctors. There had to be another way, and that's where I came across your liposomal cream. So before we delve deep into that, can you talk to us about your experience and your work around hormones?
Well, my work around hormones is basically my experience in the naturopathic health industry. Hormones are the catalysts for remaining healthy, and when they're in balance, we feel normal, and our body is in a normal state. And some people say, well, normal, that seems kind of boring. Normal isn't boring. Normal is exactly how we're designed to function. And when they become in an imbalanced state, it introduces the disease process. So hormones, as naturally occurring within the body, I support keeping them healthy and balanced in my practice when I was in practice. And I do not believe that hormone replacement therapy is the naturopathic way. I believe that is the way of pharma.
Mm.
Pharma was doing a hormone replacement therapy with women in a large study, and they were using pregnant mare's urine, and that's where the hormones were from. And they had to stop the study midway because women were getting cancer and dying. So they kind of shoveled that study under the carpet, but they're still recommending these type of hormones. And hormones on their own, they need to fit into your endocrine system. And that's the balance is extremely important. So I've dealt with hormones for my entire career.
And this pregnant mare's urine that you're referring to, I know the name of it, but they're still prescribing that to
They
women.
sure are.
So I don't know if you want me saying the name of it. I do know
Well, you can
several.
go ahead.
So this is prometrium that we're referring to.
Yeah.
And I know several of my followers that are currently taking this. They were prescribed this, even though I've recommended this is not a good idea. But it's shocking that they still will prescribe this when they know the potential outcomes.
It's the third leading cause of death, properly prescribed medication. So what else are they going to prescribe?
Well, yeah, we could go down the rabbit hole of the financial aspect, but we've more important things to talk about.
Yeah. But I think that the people know that this is the system. This is how they've been trained. This is what they know, and so I mean, and I don't fault them for this. This is how they are trained.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to these imbalances that many of us, specifically women, although men experience them too, but we're talking about women, when these imbalances and issues that we're experiencing with our hormones, what is driving that? Like, what kind of environmental factors are causing us to have all this?
Well, it's really a breakdown of several things. I would say it's the bioaccumulation of environmental toxins. And that encompasses the pesticides, herbicides, the genetically modified organisms that are in our food, the hormones that are pumped into our livestock. We're talking about having a total bombardment of things that are not natural within the human body. And then we are bombarded again with radiation. So radiation toxicity combined with this heavy metal toxicity is really what's bringing us down. And of course, the diet. The diet is critical because Hippocrates said, let the food be thy medicine and the medicine be thy food. And right now, food, even organic, cannot keep a person healthy. And that's the problem now.
Yeah.
So this is where I think it's all stemming from. I think it's stemming from how we live and what we're being, what we come under. And, the 5G sure doesn't help, and everybody's on their cell phones. So we're really toxic beings.
So when you say radiation, I'm interested to hear that, because I expected the rest, but the radiation is new, that people wouldn't consider this could be affecting your hormones. Is this now the radiation from the towers, from our phones, from our laptops, microwaves, that sort of radiation?
Well, we get it from Fukushima is still causing radiation exposure here. I don't know if you've looked into from when they used to test nuclear bombs in the United States. the radiation doesn't go away. Look at Chernobyl, still toxic. So when you're talking about we have radiation, and then another thing that probably you may not have heard of, or your listeners, is what the sun is doing. You see, we like to attribute climate change to what man is doing, but it's not man's doing. I mean, they may have some influence, but the radiation is coming in from the sun. The sun causes radiation flares, and because we're in a cycle, we're in a 12,000 year cycle. When you're in that cycle, the radiation from the sun and the Earth's weakening magnetic field, we're getting radiation that penetrates into the human being, and it affects us in a big way. There are several podcasts that are very good in explaining this, and we have written about it in our weekly newsletter. But this is what's causing a radiation toxicity, combined with all the things that you mentioned.
Oh, and I'm curious as well, just while we're on this, where would this fit in electric cars then, in regards to radiation and people sitting in them for hours?
Well, that won't affect it. No, that's not the type of radiation that will affect anything. No, okay. It's something that's coming through the radio waves, and each time when they come out with a G4, G5, it magnifies that, and when they're coming out with G6, and it'll go like 100 times more than G5. So I mean, we're basically frying ourselves. And the one thing that people can do is cover yourself as much as you can in your home, and with copper. Copper repels radiation, and to protect your thyroid gland, because your thyroid gland comes under attack by radiation. Also, your adrenal glands.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So, with these hormonal problems, what are the most problematic hormones that women specifically are having issues with? And also, from what age do you think onwards do we start having these issues?
Well, that's we know. I have consulted for what they're doing in China. We have practitioners here that send our HGH product to China because young girls of 7 and 8 years old are having menses at 7 or 8 years old. And the Chinese government was recommending that for the treatment for them to actually shut down their HGH, their human growth hormone. And what that's going to do, it'll stop that from happening, but it stops their growth.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it's short-sighted treatment plan but what it's going to do is going to create a real imbalance in those poor children. And so hormone imbalance can start at any age. And it's really, our hormones start actually declining from the time of puberty. So for we have our HGH production is there, and thymus gland, we have the full thymus. When we come after puberty, it starts to drop and until it becomes completely fat, and then that of course affects the T cells. And your HGH is your growth and development. And if your HGH are out of balance, your thyroid will be out of balance. Your adrenals will be out of balance. Your sex hormones will be out of balance. So this is what's happening. And I think for under, say, normal conditions, usually hormonal balance will start at probably about 30 years of age, 25 to 30. Recently, for the last 3 years of the stress that the people have been under, that's accelerated this process. So maybe from 25 we would look at, and we find this is happening mainly for our entire endocrine system is out of balance.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because we tend to think like in your 20s is where you're almost in your prime and everything's amazing and we're having our party time and our experience. But you're saying, no, you're not escaping these changes either.
No, 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 they do affect. I mean, you can tell by women when they experience the menses and they go through the cycles, and then they'll start having, very painful menstrual pains. And these are, I'm talking 20, 25 years old. I know actually a 12-year-old that had called from consultation from a doctor saying, didn't know what to do with this patient, 12 years old, and in bed for up to 7 to 10 days every month.
Whoa.
Massive pains. And of course, my first recommendation was put her on our HGH, balance the endocrine system. Within 2 weeks, the child developed, had her regular menses and never needed the product again. But this is how we can, at any age, can be affected. So, but I think from 25 on, I would say thyroid imbalance affects 100% of the population, female for sure, 100%. And they live with the symptoms, not knowing these symptoms are based from your thyroid and how it interrelates with your adrenal glands. And so they when you go to the doctor, you say, well, gee, I don't feel good. I feel my hands and extremities are cold or hot. I'm feeling sluggish. I just can't seem to break this. And then I'm tired and I don't sleep well. And or they can be irritated. And then they have painful periods in this nature. And so the doctor will just say, well, how old are you? Well, you're 35, 40. And they love to do this. And they say, well, it's the aging process. You just have to get used to it. That's the aging process. And, when I hear that, I say, that's absolute BS. That's not the aging process. It's a decline in how our bodies are functioning.
Yeah. It's the imbalance.
It is the imbalance. In a balanced state, disease cannot function.
Yeah. It's bizarre. People say it to me all the time. My doctor told me I'm just getting older. I'm like, what? This is insane, even though they have all these symptoms that maybe our grandmothers would not have experienced.
No, that is true. That is their escape clause. It's your aging process.
Yeah.
And that'll go from everything from eyesight to hormones to your skin condition to everything. It's your aging system.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a drug for it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the eyesight. I've heard that a few times from my clients. They're getting macular degeneration and, you're just getting old. And I'm like, I don't agree with that at all.
No, that's another, that's an environmental toxin breaking down in the eyes. Yeah.
So what is it mostly thyroid? And then I know you mentioned the adrenals. I've always spoke to my clients and said, your thyroid and adrenals, they're like sisters. What happens to one is going to happen to the other. Right. But in regards to the sex hormones, what changes are we seeing there after 25, 30?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing is it all stems from our endocrine system. So how it works is your pituitary is your master gland. Your pituitary will send signals. So let's say your thyroid is in need of thyroxine, and so your thyroid will be signaled from your your master gland, your pituitary gland. It says we need to have more thyroxine. So it will go down, and then of course it won't be able to produce it. So then it'll have a signal that will say to your adrenal gland, you've got to increase the adrenaline or the cortisol, which works with the thyroid. And then the thyroid in a state of balance can produce the thyroxine. And so when it's depleted, the thyroid, and it doesn't have it to give out, then the adrenal gland keeps producing and producing and producing, but it's under stress. So now it's adrenaline. And the adrenaline the adrenal gland is the largest organ, is the organ in the body with the highest amount of vitamin C. So the vitamin C is your actual immunity, right? So it helps to produce your immunity. And so when your adrenal glands are in adrenal fatigue, then all they can produce is anxiety. And so they try to signal to the thyroid, but the thyroid does not have the thyroxine. So it becomes a vicious circle. And then that vicious circle then starts to affect the sex hormones. So your sex hormones, at that stage, your progesterone is much lower than your estrogen. So your body becomes estrogen dominant. And then, of course, these are all the reasons why they have painful menstruation. It is because of the imbalance. Menstruation should not be an uncomfortable situation. Under normal circumstances, you should not be in pain. So this is the reason. So what you really need to do is, and the medical system does not understand this, but you need to treat the body holistically, treat it as a single unit, the body. And so what we need to then focus on, that you have all things must fit into the treatment process. So when you have your to give an isolated hormone, like thyroxine, or to give, say, Synthroid, the medication Synthroid, which, by the way, is one of the #1 prescription drugs in America. In, I think it was 2018, 126 million prescriptions were written for this product, Synthroid. So that would be equivalent to 1/3 of the American population having this drug. And what a recent university study was showing, that 80% of the people on Synthroid do not need it. So that's quite significant. And some of our newsletters, we go into detail. And in my book, Natural Medicine for a Sick World, I go into detail. So this is the issue. And so when you take the endocrine system, so your pituitary, your thyroid, your adrenal, sex hormones, and your other glands, but these are your main ones that we'll be discussing today. When you have this imbalance and you take an isolated synthetic hormone and you give it to a person that has a thyroid imbalance, what it does at best is give a little blip. So the person will get a little, they'll have a sensation that they feel better.
Yeah.
But as soon as the drug lays off, your thyroid imbalance is back to where it was. It hasn't corrected anything. That's why when you're prescribed that, you're prescribed it for life. And then as you continue on the product, you need to have a stronger amount and a stronger amount and a stronger amount as your body becomes used to it. Because this is happening, because you're becoming weaker and weaker and weaker with your glands. And so it's a vicious circle, and it's hard to get off the treadmill.
So it's only masking the problem. It's not fixing the problem.
It treats the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And so the causal chain is what we call in naturopathic medicine. You go to the root cause. What is causing this? And you don't treat the condition in reverse. You treat it from its origin,
Mm-hmm.
and you work it up to where the symptom is. And this is how you get your body to come back into a state of balance.
Mm. So if we were to go to the root cause, would you agree nowadays the root cause for many of us in the disruption of our endocrine system is coming from stress and how we're living?
Yep. It's coming from stress, the toxins, what they're basically our lifestyle, and what we're being bombarded with on a daily basis. Because and especially when you have the aging process come in, your body, you age. As you age, you need to replace what you're losing through the aging process. This is what keeps us going. You can't expect that you come into this world with the way you are, and that's just going to hold you all the way through to the dying day. Well, how is that going to work for food? Now, these are supposed to be called food supplements. So how would you manage if you say, well, you've been fed breakfast today, you don't need it for at least another 6 months? It doesn't work that way. So we have to replace what is breaking down in our body as it breaks down as we age. It's critical. Yeah.
And if we're not, then you combine that with all these environmental factors, it's accelerating the aging process. So that's why we're experiencing this younger and younger and younger.
Right. And then the doctor will tell you it's just your age.
It's funny because my grandmother didn't have these issues, but now I do.
Oh yeah, cancer wasn't prevalent in children. I never heard of it. When I was in practice years ago. Not now. Now children are inundated with cancer.
Yeah, I know. It's great. My grandmother was strong as an ox. We're obviously Irish, but she was strong as an ox right into her 90s, still doing the gardening, the baking, like everything. But now everyone just is so frail and fragile, and it's just we're almost weakened as a species.
We are, because the hormones that are in the food and in the environment are actually changing our DNA.
Yeah.
What they're putting into the so-called, what.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I don't think there's a good kind of keywords that we can use for that. People will cop on, hopefully. So when I reached out to your team, it was because I've been getting a lot of questions around progesterone specifically. And as you alluded to, that when we have all this adrenaline going around, our progesterone takes a hit and it puts us in the state of estrogen dominance and lower progesterone because we get the pregnenolone steal and all that fun stuff. But your company has created an alternative for women. And I'm just going to add this in. I didn't mention this to you before. One of my clients, she'll know who she is when she listens to this. She was doing an ARTS test a couple of weeks ago, the autonomic nervous stress response test. And she had brought your product, your liposomal progest cream, with her, and they did the test before applying the cream, and she was just curious to see what the feedback loop would be like. So then they applied the cream into the inner arms, waited 10 minutes, then did a second ANTS test, and they noticed a huge drop in the central nervous system response through the test there within 10 minutes. So it is efficacious, and I'm sure you know this, but I just thought you'd be interested interested to hear that. And that was kind of interesting as a case study for me. The proof is in the pudding, like this stuff works.
Yeah, it does work. Yeah, I mean, we used to produce progesterone in Canada, and that was before the regulations came into effect. And progesterone today in Canada is by prescription.
Why did they change that? Do you know?
Because it's hormones, and they want to control hormones because there's money in hormones.
Mm.
That's where the money is. I mean, when we produced our thyroid product without hormones, my supplier said to me directly when I was producing thyroidine, he says, "Why do you want to produce a hormone-free thyroid product?" He says, "The money is in the hormones. We all know that. Our whole industry knows that." I said, "Well, the healing is in the tissue."
Yeah.
And so this is the issue. And so we used to produce the progesterone, but then it was not available.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to the drawing board, so to say, and I realized what progesterone is made from soy isoflavone that has been a certain it's compounded and it's isolated, and it's in a laboratory they create the progesterone. So I went to our supplier where I used to buy the progesterone, and I says, I want it, but not at the stage of progesterone. I want it still in the stage of this product, let's see, what was I going to say, the soy isoflavone, and I don't want to go as far as to produce it into progesterone.
Yeah.
And so my supplier suggested one that was made, and they make it in Europe, and it's a soy isoflavone, and it's guaranteed third party by a European Union to be non-GMO, because soy today 90% is genetically modified. And so I would avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
And so we produced this product, and we got this, and what it does is it creates it within the body a balance, and it does not raise your estrogen levels. And this is very critical because they did a study in the United States and in Canada, and it did not raise the estrogen levels. And so that product, we have this raw material in it. Then we also put in there pomegranate.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. So and then we do red clover. And so both of those are naturally occurring that work with the hormones. Now they do work with the estrogen levels, but they come from a plant source there, so they're not like environmental estrogens. So when these are combined, it creates the synergy that is very similar to progesterone. And so I recommended the same application that they would use during their cycling, to use the Progest liposome cream, and through menopause, or when you're going through even those that have had surgeries and have their ovaries removed, it's still recommended to the same way. And
you also have wild yam in it, don't you?
No.
Oh, no.
Now, wild yam is a fallacy, because I know that there's a lot of creams on the market produced by wild yam, and one of the ones that was selling one of the best, and it was working, it was using wild yam. You can look it up. How they got. They were enforced on, and they were found out that they were spiking it with progesterone.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so they got charged everything else, but wild yam cannot produce progesterone.
Okay.
Wild yam, if it in a lab, can produce estrogen.
Hmm.
So it may be placebo if they're getting the results, but it cannot produce the same results as soy isoflavone.
Okay, great. So the application then, because people are going to want to know, are you recommending the inner arms? Where are you recommending to be applied? But also, would you agree? Because when I'm working with cycling women, I say, well, let's use the progesterone in the second half. Hopefully, you've ovulated, and we're using it in the second half to work in sync with your cycle.
Right. Yeah. So I would put it into the soft tissue areas and rotate the area that you're putting it on, under the arm,
Mm.
on the stomach, in the groin area, and rotate that. I would put it close as possible to the inner legs, so it can penetrate.
Mhm.
I have practitioners that use it actually internally that way,
Oh,
uh,
really?
but we can't say that.
Oh, okay. But you've heard it
I've
happens.
heard it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then for non-cycling women, all day, not all day, but every day throughout the month.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite safe to use on a daily basis. You
Mm.
use about a quarter of a teaspoon and just use it that way.
I'm just curious, in a cycling woman where the first half of her cycle we're focusing on building the estrogen and there's almost no progesterone there, would it be conflicting to also use it in the first half of your cycle because naturally we wouldn't have progesterone in that cycle?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but because this product, the way it works, and because that it does have the naturally occurring estrogen, so it will actually help to support that. And
Mm.
that's the beauty of it. So you can use it throughout the month.
That is good to know because stress doesn't sleep for the first half of the month.
Yeah, yeah, it's good, and then I would recommend them also taking the HGH,
Uh-huh. As well.
because the HGH is tremendous because it has the thyroid, the adrenal, and it has the pituitary, and it has insulin. And so the insulin is homeopathic. These are all homeopathics. So the insulin works with the glycogen levels of the bloodstream, so the sugar levels, and this will give a balance. And you can see major differences in how the cycle goes.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. A lot of women find it a lifesaver.
Great. Now, I know a lot of people are going to have this question is if you're already using prescribed like hormone replacement therapy or bioidentical hormones, can you still use these as well? Or is that just going to be too much for your body? Are you better off kind of weaning and transitioning?
Well, you can use it, but have at least an 8-hour period separated from when you use the prescribed medication and this over-the-counter medication.
Okay.
Yeah, the HGH you can use um, all the way through,
Mhm.
and I recommend that by taking 8 drops 3 times a day under your tongue, so it's fairly simple on an empty stomach.
How just while you're talking about the HDH there, and this just popped into my head, I hope you don't mind, but how helpful is the HDH for inflammatory issues?
Well, it's quite beneficial. It helps to bring the body into a state of balance, and usually inflammation will come when you have in a disease state because your
Mhm.
body is out of balance. And so inflammation is always something you have to consider. Um, there are several other treatments for for actually benefiting with this Progest liposome cream, and we're going to bring out in the springtime a product called Balance.
Okay.
There'll be a capsule, and we had it before, and we we took it off the market, but we've had such high demand for it to come back that we'll bring it back, and that really helps to bring the body into a state of balance. It's quite remarkable what it can do. But we'll keep you informed on that, when that's coming out.
Yeah, by then we'll probably need more balance. So, I know you mentioned with the human growth hormone that it's age safe. It's safe for any age. What about the progest? Is there a safety recommendation? Like, is it safe to use on anyone? What about pets? Can we use it on our husbands?
Well, I mean, men need progesterone too, and women needs actually testosterone.
Mhm.
So, I mean, not a lot, but we do need that as a state of balance. And so men could use it once a week,
Okay.
and children, if there's a need. You see, the thing is, we recommend having most of the products that we produce for people that have passed through their they're about 18, 17, 18, usually 20. HGH I usually don't recommend till 20 plus.
Okay.
But like I say, there's these children that are having these problems. Well, then what's the alternative? So of course, we have to treat the body in the state of that it's in, and no matter the age, it's safe. But I don't think they're really going to have hormonal imbalances normally, a child. So usually I would recommend from 20 on, or depending on your cycle.
Yeah. Are there any contraindications there? Like, I know generally progesterone's pretty safe, so a natural alternative should be pretty safe. But if someone's on specific medications or during trying to get pregnant, I have a couple of clients going through IVF. Is there any contraindications with using the progest?
No, not that I know of. I mean, we had a couple that came to me and they for a consultation. They tried everything to get pregnant, and they were considering to even have insemination, artificial insemination, and then so I did a follow up to them and work up on blood work and this nature, and we put the lady on the Progest liposome cream and put both of them on the HGH. The man was on the fiery male, and then the woman was on, at that time we had the balanced. And within 3 months, I had a phone call that they were pregnant, but with twins.
Whoa, lucky. That'll be fun.
They were actually over the roof, over the top. They were so happy. And now they have 4 children, and it brought them into a state of balance, which was remarkable because they tried everything else.
Yeah, that is remarkable because as we know, we are having some population issues and fertility issues are on the rise nowadays.
Yeah. So we have to bring ourselves back into a state of balance, and we have to recognize that the bedding ground of disease is in the gut. And so we have to first get our intestinal flora, and then we have to be able to digest our food. And when the gastrointestinal system is working and it's producing, because this is your fuel, right? And the fuel is what makes the body function. And so if you have a good fuel supply and it's getting to the cells and to the sites, then you're gonna function well. And so the thing is, I found so many women with a thyroid imbalance too, and the thyroid will affect your ovary. So when you treat the thyroid gland, even lots of I've heard so many horror stories of them having their thyroid removed, and so then their hormones are out of whack continually. And what they fail to what they don't realize is that we have thyroid receptor sites throughout our body. And so if you can take like a product like thyroidine, and it can help feed that because it's naturally occurring iodine within the thyroid gland. So it won't work the same way when you take iodine isolated, because iodine is the treatment for radiation. So this thyroidine would help even to offset radiation, which we're finding a lot of today.
Is a thyroidine one of your glandulars?
It's one of our glandulars.
And you have then an adrenal glandular as well.
Yeah, we have the thyroid
Mhm.
glandular, we have the adrenal glandular, we have the HGH glandular, and you have the thymus glandular. So they work on balancing your endocrine system, and we bring them all in from New Zealand.
And they're bovine, are they?
The thymus is from ovine, so it's from sheep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the others are they're processed in a way that would even make them kosher and halal. So they're the cleanest you can get. And I've been buying from the same supplier for maybe close to 30 years.
Mm-hmm. It must have a good reputation.
They have the best products.
So who would benefit from glandulars? We have a few minutes to maybe touch on this. Who would benefit from using glandulars? I had mentioned to you before we even started recording that I have some clients who go to their physician for help, and they're saying, no, there's nothing wrong with you, and they will not prescribe them anything for their thyroid or fatigue or whatever.
Well, for thyroid issues, so thyromoto would be one that has no iodine, and that would be used for Hashimoto's disorder. The thyroidine with iodine would be used for hyper and hypothyroidism, to bring it into a state of balance. Mm-hmm. But you can't just, if you're on a drug, you can't just transition. You need to transition off. You just can't go cold turkey and take this and say it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Because you need to transition off your drug, mm-hmm. and introduce this one with it over a time period, and a naturopath would be able to help you with that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the thymus builds T cells, and our T cells are our immunity. And so when I was in practice, I used to give thymus to my AIDS patients, and it kept their T cells at a level that was normal, and they never declined. They stayed healthy and well. And we've used it for several disease states. And we combine that with L-glycine, which is the glycogen that works within the cell. We call it the healer, because it's abundant, and what it can do is build collagen. And of course, collagen can help build your bone density and help with that in your skin and everything else in your joints. So that really worked as a great combination. But glands were the original medicine.
Mm. Yeah,
that's what they used. They've used it from the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. Even Hippocrates used it right back from ancient days. And well, because they didn't want to have the glands with hormones available to the public, so they put them into drugs. And so through our applications through Health Canada, we were able to produce hormone-free thyroid. But how they are produced and glands, but how they are produced with the hormones, they're very effective because they go directly to the cellular site.
Yeah.
And they give the glands what they're lacking as you age, because these things start to drop. You'll find when a person hits 40, they lose 30% of their muscle mass. They can do everything the same way. 6 months on our HGH, it brings it back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is what I'm saying. The aging process does not need to be one where we have to struggle. And we have to say, oh, gee, I'm going to be this. I'm going to get Alzheimer's. My hair is going to fall out. I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to be in a nursing home. Not at all.
Yeah.
Your health, I believe, sits between your own two hands. Mm-hmm. And it's the decisions you make and the lifestyle you choose will either determine you to be healthy or a ward of the state.
It is. It's a choice, and I say it regularly. Like, we have to learn to take responsibility for our health, and there are people who can help you on that journey, but the responsibility is on you.
It is.
Before I let you go, and this has been amazing, with the thymus gland and
Right.
immunity, I'm having a lot of, and I'm sure you know about this, I have a lot of clients and followers that are really experiencing compromised immune systems after taking the thing that shall not be named over the
Yeah.
last few years. And they're really struggling. Like, every second week, they are sick, they have respiratory issues, they have just everything. And it just, would this be something that could benefit to boost the T cells and help with, shall we say, strengthening the immune system?
Well, let's say if that was me,
Mhm.
I would be on thymus. I would take three times a day for 90 days.
Brilliant.
And I would bring back my thymus gland, my T cells, and I would take that with 6 glycine. So
Mhm.
2, 3 times a day, take them both at the same time on an empty stomach. And this will work because the glycine works with the thymus gland. And that is probably, if I could tell you the conditions that protocol has helped with,
Mhm.
it's actually tremendous, tremendous. I just wish I could tell you.
Would you stack that with vitamin D3 or zinc or anything else, or just do you think those two are good enough?
Well, I think you should take probably vitamin D. You should take vitamin C. I think we were the only company that produces a non-GMO vitamin C. We bring it in from Scotland. It's uh, it's actually grown corn, non-GMO certified.
Mhm.
And so I would take the vitamin C, vitamin D, the thymus, the glycine, and depending on the level, some people have it really really bad,
Mm.
and they need to get these proteins that have been part of our body. We have a product called Claw, and Claw it has EDTA in it, and
And
I can tell you what
EDTA,
EDTA does
yeah,
and
yeah.
tell you what Claw does. So EDTA is a chelation product, so it pulls heavy metals from the body.
Mhm.
So it's tremendous, and you use one bottle for every decade of your life. So if you're 40, you use 4 bottles,
Mhm.
and that's something I would take if I was trying to recover from what we're not talking about.
That thing that shall not be named, which is not Voldemort from Harry
No,
Potter, people. It's something
yeah.
else. I think people know. Unfortunately, due to censorship and whatnot, we have to be careful with what we say.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, and the thing is, natural medicine, I believe, can treat any health condition, and the body, when it's brought into a state of balance, can heal itself.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So this is the thing. People think, well, I've got this, I can't, and I need to go the other route, but you don't. You just need to bring your body into a state and give it the nutrients it needs, and the body will heal itself. I've seen it on every disease. I had
Mhm.
I had great success with cancer,
Mhm.
and I mean the name is frightening, so people panic on it,
Mhm.
but it's just like anything else.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly, and it's unfortunate that people become their diagnosis. They get a diagnosis, and that then defines them, and they don't see outside this tunnel, which is unfortunate.
Well, that's due to our upbringing, because as soon as you put on a white coat, you become a mini god.
Hmm.
Whatever you say is the gospel truth, and you don't question it. But in the last 3 years, people have questioned. So things have changed.
There is an old, I don't know how old it is. There's a saying that's always resonated me that a doctor can qualify at the bottom of his class, but he will still receive his doctorate and he will still go out and treat people.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's just the way it is. That's the way the system is set up, and there's no getting around it. I mean, the prescriptions are mainly covered by the state, and your doctor's visits are covered by your plan and the province or wherever you're in. All right, and naturopathic medicine you pay for.
Yeah.
And if it was one system that wanted to have health, it would be equal. You choose how you want to be treated. But we know that's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, unless me or you starts running the country, maybe.
I'll vote for you.
Well, I have to become a citizen first. So.
Okay, yeah, that helps.
Well, thank you for this. This has been fascinating, like really brilliant. Thank you. So, everybody, I will share the links. Most of you are familiar with Life Choice. Also, your book again. I did find that for those of you, Natural Medicine for a Sick World, it is on Amazon. I'll share the link. I don't know, is it on your website as well?
Yeah, we have it on our website. And we also have a weekly newsletter. They can sign up.
Okay.
And it's our way to really fight what's going on, the misinformation, and give them knowledge so they can be empowered to make decisions to be healthy. And I think that's critical. They need to have someone they can trust. And as I say, trust is the currency that is being waged today.
Yeah.
It's critical.
Yeah.
And so for the products that we produce, I source everything myself, formulate it all. I don't leave it to anyone else for that to happen. And that's why products that we do is the closest to medicine as possible. Well, it is medicine, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's not prescribed medicine.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you'll see a difference. And I think we just need to give the body what it's lacking. If you give the body what it's lacking, we can live disease-free right up to the day we pass into the new dimension.
Into the next life, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And you're right, trust, I believe, is our most valuable commodity, and it is lacking so much nowadays. But it's important that we have practitioners that we can trust, have our best interests at heart, like yourself.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my purpose to be here.
Thank you for your time. I will share everything. This has been wonderful. And again, everybody, this Dr. Dahl and his company is local. They're Airdrie, well, not Airdrie, they're Alberta, but they're up the road from us in Airdrie, like 30-minute drive.
Yeah, Cochrane. We picked this for our head office, and you can find our products in most of the health stores or pharmacies. We're out there.
We have it here in Community Foods, and Nutters have it, so it's readily available.
Yep, it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Dahl.
No one can